This video is going to be a quick and dirty one, hopefully. I've an upcoming trip to Ireland. I'm going to be cycling through Galway and Mayo. But I want to get my bike ready, and I've been riding this bike, the bridleway bike, for a few rides. And while it's perfect for the bridleways, so just short 3-4 hour rides, I don't think it's capable of multi-day trip. I'm going to take the parts from this bike and then this other bike, which may or may not have been shown in this previous video as much. So it's no surprise this frame is the steel version of the purple Univega. I've been riding it the last few months just as a commuter, and I've been really enjoying it. The steel frame is noticeably more compliant, it corners really well, flexes in the right places. So I've whacked a high handlebar on it so for the comfy commuting position, and I've really been enjoying it. I still got the 3x7 group set, but I had taken off the OEM wheel set because it was in really good condition and put it on a steel bike that I then sold to raise funds for this build. So to get this ready for the trip, I'm going to swap a lot of the parts from the purple Univega onto this frame, and I'll talk about it as we go through the video. Yeah, I'm going to time lapse this build because there's no technicalities, it's all just swapping parts, pretty boring stuff. So yeah, get your brew ready and enjoy the video. And today's brew is just some plain out water in a new bottle I bought. So yeah, spoiler alert, this is going to be going just about here. And if I get time and I'm creative enough, I might even spray paint this, but we'll see. Anyway, let's get to it. So at this stage I thought the plan was very simple. Just swap over the racks and the bags, swap over the wheel set, and then swap over the rear derailleur. But as with this sort of stuff, I get thrown a few curveballs as we progress in the build. But generally at this stage I was quite optimistic, and I was quite hoping it wouldn't take that long. But yeah, you can see here I'm just taking off all the components, getting them ready. And just to note at this stage that about every minute of footage here is about 1 hour of actual time. So just to dismantle the bike and get it ready for the grey Univega was about half an hour. So at this stage you can just see me get everything ready to put on the Univega, this grey one, and putting everything on the table, giving it a good clean, and should be all going into that basket on the left hand side. So I need to swap out the wheel sets and swap over the slick tires for the knobbly tires. So if you look carefully, you'll notice that I'm spraying the tires and the inner tubes with some pink bike cleaner. The reason for that is to make sure that the inner tube doesn't stick to the tire and stops it from seating onto the rim. You get a little indicator to make sure that the tire has seated correctly, and talking to mechanics and a few other guys is that if you make sure it's lubricated and you increase the pressure well above the recommended, they seem to seat okay, and then you can lower down the pressure for riding. So it's a bit tricky, and if you don't do it, the tire kind of doesn't seat properly and looks like it's kind of wobbling or it's a bit bent. But yeah, talking to bike mechanics, that's the solution. So now we're getting into the meaty bits. By taking off the rear derailleur and the integrated brake levers and shifters. I was then installing some DR LX brake levers and then the separate shifters. One is the same shifter and then the other is the same matching DR LX 3-speed shifter. So at this stage I had figured out I needed all new cabling. And just right there I'm just adjusting the cable stop for the front brake just so it doesn't clash with the stem. So in this video I'm finishing off the cabling and then just getting the bike ready for all the new accessories I'm putting on. So getting rid of the bottle cage and the rear mudguard. It's a weird toe peak one that attaches to that rear brake booster. I can't find anything online about it, but I think it's pretty cool, kind of like a OG ass saver. So I highly rate those red brake blocks I'm putting on. No issues with them, and they do give good stopping performance. I put some Aztec brake blocks on the front. They're absolutely awful. They felt like concrete. So yeah, you can see the red brake blocks here, and I highly rate them. I'm very quick here, but what I'm doing is going over all the cabling and some of the nuts and bolts and joints with a little bottle of wet lube. So I'm just touching everything and just making sure everything is tight. Here I want to kind of fix this here. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to drill a hole and cable tie it. And the other thing is I'm just going to put tape in. So I think I'll put tape in first, but I roll a nice section of duct tape, put the hole in here, and then put the cable tie in after. Yeah. Alright, let's stick a nice... Ooh. Oh, crumbs dropping everything. Oh. Get another bit of duct tape. I'm pretty sure I have enough clearance to do this. But oh my gosh, I have no idea how to hold this thing. What I'm just gonna do is just cut it. Just cut it a good distance there. Okay. That is very, very nice. Here I'm just checking the fitment and the clearance for the zip tie I'm going to put in and which way to orientate it. I stopped talking at this point of filming, but here I'm just inserting the cable tie and I'm drilling out the existing hole for the bolt onto the frame. Yeah, and here just checking it fits and everything's all good and nice. So in this clip it's just me actually mounting the mudguard. I'm putting in a tiny bit of a spacer just between the mudguard and the frame just so it brings it back a bit. I do that in a second when I kind of show something to the camera. But because this mudguard is coming from another Univega, it actually goes on really easily. I'd only had to do minor adjustments, and there was about 2-3 mil of clearance at the tightest point in the mudguard and the tire, but that's because I'm running a 2.1 or 2.2 tire. It should only be maximum 2-inch I think for this mudguard and this frame. But yeah, then just adding on the pannier again, this went on really easily from the purple Univega, just because roughly the same dimensions and mounting points. But yeah, this was one of the smoothest parts of the whole build actually. So if you notice, I do a lot of costume changes and the lighting changes, and that's basically because I did this over about 2 weeks. And so yeah, do a lot of changes. But yeah, this is just getting the front of the wheel sorted, putting on the front mudguard, putting on the new brake pads. These are black ones, Aztecs ones I mentioned before. They're absolutely horrendous and I had to change them later on in the video. But again, the front rack, since it's coming from a Univega to Univega, I don't have to do any adjustments, I just have to mount it. It goes on really easily. You'll see here I'm kind of adjusting the brakes, and this doesn't actually work with the cantilevers between the Aztec brake pads and then this awkward really wide angle for the cable on the cantilevers. It just doesn't work, and I change it later to more of a V-brake style that I had on the purple Univega. Just adding cable ferrules in the background there. So I got this fabric scoop saddle at a really good deal and I kind of got on with it. Not a big fan. And then I'm swapping out these 90s pedals for some modern DMR V6 pedals I had on my Purple Univega. I really get on with these and I find them super comfy. And then this is just me going around the bike doing some final checks, final bolt tightening, because I'm trying to get the bike ready to go for a ride later that day. So I've taken off this Blackburn frame bag from the Purple Univega and using it here. I spent about a couple of hours in total trying to figure this out, but trying to mount it to the top tube and the seat tube was quite difficult. Basically the zip never opened correctly. It kind of pinched just at the very end, so opening and closing it kind of just became a bit tricky. I couldn't figure it out, so I was trying different mounting positions, seeing if that worked. But basically up at that joint between the top tube and the seat tube, it kept slipping and then I could never get it to fit right, so I just spent a few hours just trying different options, and this is the option I settled on. So I'm just using this is elastic cord, I think it's about 5mm thick, and then I'm just looping it around. I'm not doing a cross thread, just a single loop, and then at the end I just twist it to cinch, kind of tighten it, and that seemed to work really well. I really love these Decathlon handlebar bags. I find that they're really good for holding phones and snacks and wallets and anything you want. I usually mount them to the stem handlebar and then either the fork or in this case the rack, and that gives the most secure mounting position. So we're now at the last stages of accessories, and that's a pump holder, and then I'm also adding in this Cepho Z Adventure water bottle holder for my brand new 1 litre Decathlon bottle. You can fit larger ones, but that's the one I settled on. And next I'm attaching the dry bags to the frame, so a tent and a sleeping bag attached with fixed plus straps, and then for my clothes a big dry bag on the pannier with some web strapping. This front rack is a 4-pound one from B&M, and then I'm attaching that with a black pull-out strap. And then later that day I finally got my final delivery. So this is a new chain and then some jockey pulleys for the XT derailleur. What had happened was they were just really worn and the shifting was pretty crap. So yeah, just whacking this on. The chain, the sizing, I did big plus 4 links, which I'm counting a few times. And then for some reason attaching the quick link was a bit of a struggle and getting it to snap. But yeah, here I tried a few times and then eventually it works and then we're all good. Yeah, just doing final checks, shifting was pretty good, just minor adjustments. Yeah, so now with everything ready we can load up the bike. So I've just gone for 3 dry bags, one for my sleeping bag, one for the tent, and then the last one for my clothes and some cooking equipment. So the 2 front ones sit just below the front rack, and then the rear one just on top of the rear rack like a torpedo. And I was pretty happy with this setup. I've seen it a few times, but it worked really well. So on the ride, the 18th tooth was skipping a bit, or just not shifting correct. So back in the workshop I kind of figured out I probably needed a new cassette. So that's a Sunrace one going on to replace the cheap air bike one. And I've been really happy with it. It set up perfectly because it was just a cassette change. I didn't need to adjust anything. And then lastly, I changed the brake pads. So I mentioned about the Aztec ones being bad, so I replaced them with then the red stoppers. It still didn't perform as much as I wanted to, as well as I wanted to. So off camera, I did change them to the silver SEX brake levers from the Purple Univega. So this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and it's just to put an extra Mudguard extender piece, just to stop spray catching on my feet. So it was Ireland, so I knew rain was coming, and I just wanted to be a bit prepared and try and keep my feet as dry as possible. So just cut it to shape, cut some holes, and yeah, just use some cable ties to attach it. It took me far too long just to get the alignment and get everything straight, but it turned out pretty neat. It came loose now, so it's pretty floppy, but other than that, it's pretty good. An annoying thing was the stock seat collar, which was made of steel, rubbed against my leg. So here I'm just replacing it with a modern aluminium version, which didn't rub against my leg. So the top tube bag was quite tricky to fit, basically because the cabling is run on top of the top tube. So I ended up using a strap and some green bungee cords to attach the top tube bag and also the frame bag, so it worked quite well. And then here also I'm about to attach a tire tube just above the bottom bracket, really good spot for it. And then yeah, just finishing off the webbing for the top tube bag. And with that we can get it out of the stand and take it for a short test ride. But we can't forget the brew, so I'm just putting the water on the new Zeffel water cage, well, Adventure Z water cage. Now let's stare at it for a bit. And with that final touch, I can get the bike fully loaded and I'm ready for my trip. So I could probably do a whole video on this fully loaded setup and what I use, so if you want that, let me know in the comments and I can either respond in the description or do a whole video on it. So just about to head off. I got all my stuff packed. Very nervous, extremely nervous. Haven't made a poo yet, even though I've had a coffee. So yeah, everything's strapped to the bike. Not sure how securely, but yeah, a lot more stuff than I thought. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Hopefully I make it to Ireland. Peace.